Crystal, I'm your favorite movie, aren't I? No, you're really not. Why am I not your favorite movie? Oh, dear God, I've lost my mind. I have lost my freaking mind. I'm fine. Okay. Moving on. Today we get to talk about something way more fun than last time, and that is my favorite horror movies of 2023.
We the best, no contest. We the best.
Remember, these are just my opinions. You might have hated some of these movies on this list, and that's fine. I'm not gonna defend them too hard. I think they were good. Probably some people agree with me, some people don't. Que sera, sera. For the other films that I do, I might put it in no particular order, but for my best and my worst, I have to do it in a hierarchy. It's fair. It's the only way I could do it. So 10 is my least favorite. I hate saying that because it's still fabulous. And number 1 is my very favorite horror movie from 2023. One of my favorite things to do is to talk about my favorite movies of the year. While 2023 wasn't a great year for horror, it actually wasn't all that bad. Because as I was going through the movies that I watched, I realized I liked quite a few of them. So much so that I actually had to include some honorable mentions. I tried not to overdo it. I do have 2 honorable mentions. I am not going to talk about the honorable mentions much because otherwise I should have just added them to the list and made it a top 12. But my 2 honorable mentions are Megan, which I'm sure everyone here knows about, and also Satanic Hispanics, which is an anthology, which is also fabulous. The monster in that, wonderful. It was hard not to put those 2 on the list, but as I was going through it, the other 10 just were really calling to me. Let's do this! Coming in at number 10, we have Influencer. Directed by Curtis David Harder, starring Emily Tennant, Cassandra Nod, and Sarah Canning. Wow, this movie really came out of nowhere for me. It's a psychological thriller at its core with horror elements. If you're looking for a gory film, this isn't the one that you want. An influencer travels to Thailand and her influencer boyfriend, who is supposed to join her, cancels on her. She meets a friend who decides to take her around and show her the sights that not many get to see, and things take a very, very, very dark turn. The boyfriend tries to get in contact with her. She tells him off. I don't want to give too much away with this film. And he decides to go looking for her. This movie is awesome. It has incredible acting. It has wonderful cinematography. I think the story is so awesome and fantastic. And it actually took some twists and turns. And I love the end. The end is probably one of my favorites. The location is gorgeous. This alone made me actually want to visit Thailand, so that's something. There's a lot of social media films out there, but I think this one definitely stands out. All in all, I think this film is fantastic, and it introduced me to some new actors who I think are phenomenal, which is Cassandra, and she is also in, unfortunately, one of the films on my worst list, It's a Wonderful Knife. It wasn't her fault. That had nothing to do with her. That had nothing to do with her. She's phenomenal. I enjoyed the entire ride. This one might be a little divisive because I'm really not sure how people feel about this film. I've heard good and bad from it, but my number 9 is Renfield. Directed by Chris McKay, starring Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Hoult, and Awkwafina. This is a comedy horror, which stars Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I'm totally one of those Cage people. I don't know if there's a name for that. I'm sure there's a name that's not Cage people, because that just sounds weird, but you know, whatever. Nicholas Hoult plays Renfield, and at the core of this movie, it's really just about the relationship of Dracula and Renfield. Renfield joins a self-help group. It's so silly. And his whole goal is to try to not be so dependent on Dracula any longer. And the group does give him hope and confidence, and what ensues. This isn't a perfect film, okay? I'm not going to act like this is perfect, but I will tell you, I had one of the best times watching this film. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the cinematography is awesome. I think Nicolas Cage just shines as Dracula. I mean, it's really funny. It really entertained me, and that's really, at its core, what I look for in a film. It's about, did you leave me entertained? Yes or no? And typically, there's no real middle ground. No. Yes or no?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
This film also has Shohreh Aghdashloo. I hope I even got close to pronouncing that properly. Who I have such a huge crush on. She's fabulous. Just her voice alone, I could sit there and listen to her all day. She was in The Expanse. She's in the game Destiny as a voice. She is just wonderful. And she's in this film, and that instantly even bumps it up a notch. This film was fun. It was fun. Did I buy the chemistry between Renfield and Awkwafina's character? Oh, absolutely not. No, I didn't see it. I didn't see any connection. Don't care. Still enjoyed the film. Thought it was funny. Did I think that Awkwafina did a great job with this physical role? Nope. But you know what? I loved every second of it. So that's why this film is on my list. I had fun with it. I let my mind go and just let myself watch it, and I immersed and I dug it. So Renfield is a win in my book. Coming in at number 8, we have Legions. Not to be confused with Legion. Directed by Fabian Forte, starring Jermaine De Silva, Lorena Vega, and Ezequiel Rodriguez. I will say that it was shot and released earlier in Argentina, but it was not released into the States until this year. So that's why it's on my list for this year. All the films that are on my list were released in the United States for 2023, because there's another film on my list that also has the same sort of thing going on. So this film is subtitled. That will immediately turn some of you off. I get it. Sometimes you don't want to think or read when you're watching a movie. I don't mind it. This is a supernatural horror, and it is about a shaman who is in a psychiatric institution, and he starts having these visions about his daughter, who also has abilities but has repressed them. He gets these visions that she's in trouble, so he has to escape from the facility and go rescue her. That's the basic gist of the whole movie. And I will tell you that this movie actually had me laugh out loud at points. It's dramatic and horror, but it also has moments of comedy. I did take some influence from Evil Dead, which I love the Evil Dead franchise. So I thought the cinematography was excellent. The acting was excellent. The story was kind of cool too. I didn't even mind that. I really thought this was a really cool film, and I would love to see a second film to this. Coming in at number 7, we have something a little different. It is a horror comedy. Totally killer, dude. It's not dude, it's just totally killer, but sorry. Directed by Nahnatchka Khan. Dear God, I hope I got that right. Starring Kiernan Shipka, Olivia Holt, and Julie Bowen. This movie is hilarious. I had such a great time with this film. After Jamie's mother is murdered, she accidentally travels back in time 30 years before to where some of her mother's other friends had been murdered by the Sweet 16 killer. It's a simple concept. The story is really kind of crazy though, because it takes some twists and turns that honestly, I did not see coming. You really didn't know what was going to go down and what was going to happen here. And the final showdown is really awesome and excellent. But this film is a true nod to the 80s. I mean, in a ridiculous way. The way that the moms dress, like those tracks. Why is it so funny to me? The tracksuits are hilarious, and all the smoking. The way Jamie's character reacts to the 80s is so funny. There's this scene with Dodgeball that I just find absolutely hilarious. This film really entertained me, and I had such a great time. It is a real slasher. Like, there's even moments at a cabin. Every bit of it, though, has a bit of humor to it. So while it is a slasher, it definitely has the all-over lighter tone to it. And I just had a great time with this. I loved all the characters. I think the acting was great. I think the cinematography was wonderful. The set design, the wardrobe, oh my God, how fun was that? Yeah, oh, and she totally wears this like Can't Buy Me Love jacket. Like, do you remember that? Like the white jacket with the leather fringe. Yes, I got it. This is another one that came out of nowhere that I really enjoyed. Coming in at number 6, we have Saw X or 10. I'm not really sure what it is. Is it Saw X or is it Saw 10? Like, I really don't know. Saw 10? Sure, Saw 10. Saw X? I think Saw X sounds cooler. Just sounds cooler. X. Saw X. You know? Directed by Kevin Grutert, starring Tobin Bell, Shawnee Smith, and Stephen Brand. This movie takes place between Saw and Saw 2. So it does refocus on Tobin Bell's character, John Kramer, as John Kramer is fighting cancer and he goes on a hunt for a cure for his cancer. As it turns out, the hunt was not as simple or easy as he anticipated. We all know how that turned out, unfortunately. I was pleasantly surprised by this film. I am a fan of the Saw franchise. I like the films. I like the traps. I think it's fun. This one was a departure to a degree from that, but also still remained faithful to the Saw films as well. It starts off a little slow. I didn't mind it. You really get to focus on John Kramer's character and you kind of get to see him develop, and I really loved it. I think this has a lot of good character study. And of course, it focuses on Shawnee's character as well. What an interesting film. I think the cinematography was great. The location was cool. I mean, the acting was phenomenal. The traps were great in this one as well. There was a lot of good gore. I have nothing but high praise to say about Saw X or 10. And Saw 11 has been announced and we will be getting it in 2024. Whoa. September 27th of 2024 to be precise. We don't have much details on the plot, but I'm wondering if they're going to stick with this Tobin Bell story or do something completely different. I don't know. They might refocus on Costas Mandylor's character. I'm really interested to see where it goes. I think it's going to have a focus on Costas for some reason. Well, not for some reason. For reasons if you've seen Saw 10 or Saw X, Saw 10, whatever, Saw 10. I think it's Saw 10 because they're not going to go XI. So it's not Saw XI, it's Saw 11. So it's got to be Saw 10. Dear God, don't make me think anymore. Coming in at number 5, we have probably the film that's on everyone's top 10 list, When Evil Lurks. Directed by Damien Rugna, starring Ezekiel Rodriguez, Damian Solomon, Sylvina Saboteur. 2 Argentinian films starring the same dude. Good for him. This is a possession film, but It's a possession film that takes place in almost like a different universe. In this world, possessions are a thing, and they have these people like called cleaners who actually come and take care of the possessed and the demons. It focuses on a family, specifically more two brothers who start to see these possessed popping up, essentially. It actually has a very apocalyptic feel to this film. I think it really is meant to be kind of an apocalyptic film because as it goes along, you see all the things that happen. I think it's very well shot. I think it's very gross and gory in a good way. Did it make me sick? Yes. Did I love it? Yes. It's shot well. The acting is phenomenal. I think that there is a good reason why you find this film on so many top 10 lists, and that's because it is just a really, really good, gory horror film. And I love that it has these new rules that come into play. There's no softness to this film. It's pretty hardcore. The only gripe or thing that I would say about this, and I'm okay with it, no big deal, but being a neurodivergent person myself, I didn't love the fact that they had an autistic boy and they basically explained his autism as a demonic possession. It kind of made me a little bit sad. But they literally took this boy who is, you know, very low on the spectrum and attributed that to him. And I guess that doesn't really explain, you know, other people. Once again, this movie is subtitled, so this will turn some of you off. That's okay, you don't have to see it. But I think you're missing out on a really great film if you skip this one. At number 4, we have Freaks vs. the Reich. Directed by Gabriele Minetti, starring Claudio Santamaria, Giancarlo Martini, and Pietro Castelletto. This is an Italian film that was filmed earlier, but was only released in the United States this year. 2023 in the States. Yep. This movie is set in World War II and follows a traveling circus who gets targeted by the Reich for their special abilities. It is a supernatural horror film. Honestly, I think my jaw dropped when I watched this film multiple times because the cinematography, the acting, everything about it is so magical. Yeah, this film feels magical. It has a very fantastical fantasy feel to it. It is a horror film. I mean, obviously, the Reich is always horror. The story is wild and sad, but hopeful and great. Again, we have a subtitled film, so I really do think if you like horror films, though, you got to get past that because you're going to miss out on some of the best films. The production value of this film is pretty amazing and mind-blowing. I feel like the cinematography and everything has like a Guillermo del Toro feel. It has that like otherworldly feel, and I just love it. I love it. It's dark, but not so dark you feel like you're in despair. There's one music sequence in this in particular that is played on a piano by, how many fingers does he have? I don't remember. You'll know it as soon as you see it. It just really touched me. I feel like this film is freaking fantastic. And I think the director and everyone that worked on this film definitely needs to do more films, especially horror, please. And thank you. I believe it's airing on Amazon Prime. This movie was originally titled Freaks Out. So if you have trouble finding it, that could be why. But I believe if you search Freaks versus the Reich now, you can find it. At the beginning of the year, it was very difficult to find. But it is fabulous. Now we're down to the top 3. Oh my gosh. Coming in at number 3, we have Thanksgiving. Yay! Directed by Eli Roth, starring Patrick Dempsey, Ty Olsson, and Gina Gershon. A Black Friday riot ends in a massacre, and it changes things for the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts. The next year, a masked killer named John Carver decides to go around and exact revenge on the people that he believes are responsible for the riot. That's basically what the entire film is about, and it is fabulous. I did a full review of Thanksgiving, so if you want, you can check that out on my channel. This truly is the perfect Thanksgiving slasher for me. I loved this film. I had so much fun with it. I loved the gore. There are some really super duper fun and creative kills in this. I was honestly blown away by what Eli Roth created here. They have announced that there will be a sequel to this film. So I cannot wait to see what John Carver has to offer next time. And now, for my number one film of 2023, we have Evil Dead Rise. Directed by Lee Cronin, starring Lily Sullivan, Alyssa Sutherland, and Morgan Davies. I don't think this is much of a shock. This was a fabulous film. I love this return to the Evil Dead franchise. It is shot well. The acting is phenomenal. The story is actually very simple, but it completely works. I loved how they found the recording and played the recording. Why do they have a bank that's been hidden underneath the parking lot? I don't know, and I don't care. The gore is really beautiful. The Deadites, the makeup that they did, it's just so good. I think everyone was concerned whether Evil Dead could actually survive without Bruce Campbell, and I think this proves that it can, for sure. It definitely can. Obviously, there are homages to other Evil Dead films. It doesn't feel exactly the same to me, but it feels really good. And I think it does still set itself apart from the other films. Obviously, if you haven't seen Evil Dead Rise, I highly recommend it. I would be shocked out there if some horror fans haven't seen it though. It is my number one must watch for this year, and maybe watch multiple times. I hope you enjoyed this list. I'm sure that many of you will disagree with me, and that's cool and that's fine, and you have every right to hate some of the films on this list. Doesn't mean you hate me. You don't hate me, do you? Do you like any of the films on this list? Do you hate some of the films on this list? What are some of your favorite horror movies from this year? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I really do hope that you have the most amazing day, my spooky darlings. 1 hour. I record gruesome for the same thing. My top 10 favorite. Although we can add a TV show in there. I would have to admit, House of Usher, oof, so good. I can't believe the year is almost over.